Welcome back to the Wake Up Call, the morning breakfast show right here on African Eyes Radio, of course, with me, the African teacher. If you've just joined us, please remember to fasten your seatbelts, because sometimes you may not like the truth that is spoken in this show and you end up getting disappointed with us. But the honest truth is that we really need you to stick right there so that you can lend us your ear and hear what we have to say this morning, especially the hour that we are now entering into. This is the hour of the unsung heroes. This is the segment where we talk about the unsung heroes, those heroes and sheroes that Africa didn't have a chance to recognize or understand their mission and vision or their point. So we ended up judge them according to how we are viewing them at that particular time, not knowing that after some time, when we get to understand their vision and mission and their ideas, the whole perception of them changed. So this is the time of the unsung heroes on African Eyes Radio.
Men who's been fighting for our rights. Let's recall some great men who's been fighting for our rights. Let's recall some great men who's been fighting for our rights. Recall Bob Marley, who's been fighting for our rights. Recall Rodney.
The African continent have had great leaders. Some were celebrated and some were not. Many unsung African heroes have died without Africans recognizing their greatness. Meet our unsung hero of the day. Only on African Eyes Radio, your revolutionary radio.
We inherited boundaries, and we agreed at the African Union that these will be the basis for our nationality. But those boundaries cut across major tribal groups, and that in itself is a matter of conflict, because in Malawi we have tribes from Mozambique, we have tribes from Zambia, we have tribes from Tanzania, and every other country is the same thing. And how we look at peace is different, because the countries across, maybe for instance under one colonial administration. It would be France, and then you have English, and then you have Portuguese. The way we've been structured to think is not the same. And that also gives a lot of problems. But I believe that there will be lasting peace on the African continent if there's development. And that development must embrace the issue of, for instance, safe motherhood. The issue of, mortality, infant, child, and maternal mortality must be part of that package. That peace will be comprehensive if people are able to feed themselves. They don't have to go beg for food. That peace can be comprehensive if people have shelter, have medicine, have schools. So it's an all-embracing thing. And I was saying, for instance, how do you have peace-keeping forces, for instance, if you don't have food? So you see one subset of that already affecting. As Africans, in this particular case as Malawians, we are the best people to know what our problems are. I have my ministers, I have my principal secretaries, I have my experts, I have the non-government organizations. And if all of us don't know what we want, what our problems are, and we need somebody else to come somewhere to tell us, then we have a big problem. But I like to believe we know it. I like to believe we know the problems of Malawi. I can say now without being arrogant that I know the problems of Malawi and I know the solutions. But I may not have the means. I think I would say it's nonsense for anybody to say it's against market principle. Which market are you talking about? When they say marketing. Tobacco, there's no such thing as international market. The grower has no say in this. The grower grows tobacco or cotton, and then you go to these middlemen companies who come and buy, and then they behave as if they are the final thing. They are the ones that go to sell to international companies at pre-fixed prices. So there's no such thing as an international market for tobacco or cotton. They're just cheating us. Mm-hmm. And they will come and say, we are working on market forces. I ask them, which forces? There are no market forces in tobacco. They buy very low price, they sell very high prices, they keep the profit to themselves. And I've been saying, no, I'm not saying I want to take all your profit, but raise the price of tobacco for my people. The shortage of foreign exchange is not because that the kwacha is not valued. In fact, people are saying overvalued. And I've asked economists to tell me what is the correct value, because then above that is overvalued, below that is devalued. What is the correct? They don't say. These are things we put in economic textbooks. They are saying if we devalue the kwacha, then we make our exports competitive. Which exports? Tobacco is never affected by the kwacha. You can devalue anything, it will not be affected. Tea is not affected, they are fixed markets. Cotton is not affected. So, you devalue the kwacha, who benefits? The day you devalue the kwacha, the price of everything, oil, matches, everything will go up for the ordinary person. Even tomatoes, the price will go up, even onions will go up. So, the inflation goes up. The IMF has a contradiction in their minds. They don't know what they're talking about. They talk about macroeconomic stability. What is stability? Stability is a level. The moment you take one of the parameters and devalue, that stability is disturbed. Because then inflation comes in. And they're saying they're following macroeconomics. So I don't know what kind of economics are at the IMF. Yeah. And I'm ready to meet them, to tell me. I want one person to tell me one good reason or one advantage that will accrue to Malawi for devaluation. Nobody is. So, you see how you make your exports competitive. Which exports? Have you ever heard the Americans, the British, the Germans, the French, the Chinese, the Japanese devaluing? When did you hear them devaluing their currencies? Okay. But they're asking us to devalue. They themselves don't devalue. I don't know. So I'm just keeping my ground, and really until someone convinces me, kwacha will not devalue. The battle we have in Africa, whether we are talking about trade, whether we are talking about economics, whether we are talking about politics, is essentially poverty, abject poverty. Africa has the largest deposits so far, various minerals, precious minerals, and yet we are getting only probably 1% of the global trade in these minerals. And therefore, we need to ask ourselves, what can we do? But let me start off by saying that Africa is not a poor continent. I've said this contrary to what others believe, and I would like to repeat. Africa is not a poor continent. It is the people of Africa that are poor. I'm saying this because if you look at the resources we have, we could get out of poverty. But much of these resources are not being processed on the continent. They've been shipped throughout the years, the last 50, 60, 70 years. They're creating employment and trade in industrialized countries, and Africa still remains poor. As a matter of fact, we get very low prices for our primary commodities. We are then processed in Europe and North America, create employment there, and the product is sent back to Africa at several times the prices. So we are losing twice. First, on the low prices of our commodities. Secondly, on the high price of the finished products that we are getting.
That was our unsung hero of the day. Meet me again next time as I'll bring to you another unsung hero of the day. Until then, stay tuned to African Eyes Radio, your revolutionary radio.
Let's recall some great men who's been fighting for our rights. Let's recall some great men who's been fighting for our rights. Let's recall some great men who's been fighting for our rights. Let's recall some great men who's been fighting for our rights.